Ethereum has this new update, right, in terms of the monetary policy and the burning mechanism, et cetera. What is your understanding or kind of read as to positive, negative? Are you neutral? How do you think this affects Ethereum moving forward?
So I got completely savage day one on Twitter when I talked about EIP 1559 actually increasing fee levels. Apparently that was something that had been forecasted, so people didn't like that I pointed that out. But
was it right?
Yeah. So like fees on Ethereum are like, I would say, structurally higher now. And really what EIP 1559 did was cut out the floor in terms of fees. So when you'd have periods on Ethereum of downtime where it would get pretty cheap to transact, the new EIP kind of just eliminated that and set like a higher threshold, minimum threshold to sort of transact. I'm vastly oversimplifying, but generally my read is that it's sort of consistently like pretty pricey to transact. Of course, you got the Ethereum community got this great thing in return, which is burning a significant share of all the fees that would be paid to miners. Miners are making as much revenue now as they were before, and also I think a majority of those fees are being burned. So think about what that means from a user perspective. So that's good and bad. On the one hand, you can make this argument, hey, if we actually reduce the issuance, Ethereum can become deflationary from a monetary perspective. It's a great story to tell investors. The negative thing, and this is something I try to communicate, and I'm trying to be fair and balanced here, is it's a form of rent extraction, right? So initially the miners, all of the fees were going to pay miners for their service of keeping the block space linear and doing the thing that miners do. Now, a good portion of the fees associated with using Ethereum just go to effectively juicing the price of Ethereum, right? By potentially reducing the supply, and so that really benefits token holders at the expense of users of the blockchain. And now a lot of Ethereans will say to me like, oh, well, token holders are users, so it's all the same thing. But if you expect Ethereum to mature and you have a lot of firms that hold Ethereum just for working capital perspective, just to utilize the blockchain, transact on it without wanting to have financial exposure to Ether, those firms are going to feel disempowered because, the Ethereum governance process increased the costs of using Ethereum and funneled that sort of return into the token price. And so now what you have, thanks to the CIP, is like these two groups, these stakeholder groups are at odds with each other. People that are long-term, effectively speculators, not to use that pejoratively, on the token price. And then people, and I think this is the most important demographic that you want to sort of curry favor with, you want to sort of coddle them, is the people that use and hold Ethereum as working capital. But that latter group is a little disempowered by the change, in my view. So that's, I'm certainly not known to be like, deeply part of the Ethereum community. So this wasn't received very well when I said it.
When you think about this, because it's an interesting framework that you're using where token holders can see price go up, which people on Twitter, et cetera, like they love that idea, right? So they're going to applaud you for that thought process. But you're basically saying, yes, but the people who are using this may actually be a negative impact. And so is it fair to say that your analysis is this could be short-term good because price goes up, but actually long-term sustainability over a 10-year period or something could put more stress or kind of be bigger obstacles or more complexity moving forward because of the change?
Yeah, I think there could well be a reckoning where people begin to understand that these somewhat opaque governance processes are not being, they're not necessarily weighing the interests of all stakeholders equally. And there could well be a moment where people realize, wow, we turned up the rent extraction dial too high and we got to turn it back now. I think that's completely plausible. I don't think people are really ready to hear that message. Maybe fees need to be really high for a long time, and these other smart contract competitors start to do really, really well, which we've seen. That's happened in the last week or so, just appreciating relative to Ethereum. But yeah, I think there could be a reckoning over the unanticipated impacts of tweaking things that look like technical things, but they're actually political changes.
So my view of this has been, and I want to see if you want to agree or disagree, and then two, also like how you think this will play moving forward is there was Bitcoin. People tried to do things with it. They were unhappy with the technical kind of architecture and how easy it would be. They went and they built Ethereum. For all intents and purposes, they were able to accomplish the composability that they were looking for that led to DeFi and many of these other things. But then they started to hit kind of a limiting wall. And so Flow, is one example. But you've also had the Binance Smart Chains of the world. You've got things like Solana, et cetera, that are now starting to pop up. And it almost feels like to some degree, there's a lot more technical competition among the smart contract platforms than, let's say, Bitcoin and something else that's competing from a monetary standpoint. And so if that is true, and you can agree or disagree with it, is this something where the old, like, what is MySpace, what is Facebook, what is the next social network, whatever, that is more likely to play out along the smart contract technical competition like landscape, not claiming any one of them is any one of those companies, equivalent, but just saying like there is going to be ones that find success. There's going to be ones that disrupt. There's always going to be new challengers. And like, you're going to constantly have to iterate and innovate your way to stay at the front of the pack to hold both one, the economic holders, but also two, the users of the platform. Because it seems like Bitcoin it either works or it doesn't, but no one's really competing for that like decentralized, programmatic, monetary policy, et cetera. And so it's kind of a 1 or 0. Here, it doesn't feel that way when you talk about the smart contract platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remotely think of these things in terms of the analogies to social networks. If you think about the key decisions that are made, whether it's changes to Bitcoin, I mean, the block size change, as I said with EIP 1559, these look like technical changes, but really they pertain to governance, and they pertain to who are the winners and losers in these systems? Who are the entities that can extract rent from being proximate to the protocol, and who are the entities that are being effectively harvested by the protocol elites? Not to, kind of engage in fear mongering or anything, but that is at the core of any real major change that happens in any blockchain is who are we empowering by virtue of our changes to the protocol, and who are we disempowering? And oftentimes developers don't acknowledge that they're engaged in politics. They think they're engaged in engineering, but it's politics because there's billions of dollars on the line.
How much are they influenced, in your opinion, by the non-engineering community? So whether it's people on Twitter, whether it's large asset managers, whether it's folks like they've taken the Ethereum system, Consensus, if you look at Solana, FTX and that crowd, like how much of it's coming from the people who aren't actually writing the code versus do you think these are technical decisions that are being made by the engineers and they just have ramifications in the political analysis?
Well, it's hard to quantify. I mean, it depends on the blockchain, but you have this tyranny of structurelessness, right? Where in a non-formalized system, which is the governance of most blockchains, it's not formalized. Power still exists. It's just veiled. It's opaque. So it's not clear who has power. And then in a highly technocratic system, it's a lot of engineers that take up this role as policymakers, people that can actually influence the governance of the system. I would say that's what I mostly perceive is these like backdoor, pretty opaque, like pretty hard to understand as a regular person, settings where decisions are made, and it's largely technocrats, like effectively very technical engineers that are making political decisions. Of course, you do occasionally have, influence, and it's getting more blurred now as you have more interest groups and you have, more large corporates that try and inject themselves into, these governance conversations, like, the New York Agreement, things like that. And you also have more sponsorship of core devs, which muddies the waters. But I would say, like historically, it's largely technocratic and also hard for an outsider to sort of get a handle on.
What's up, guys? Bang, bang. It's your boy, Pomp. Thanks so much for watching the Best Business Show. Our goal is to make this the largest, most actionable business show in the world. And to do that, we need your help. We've partnered with SoFi as our exclusive sponsor because they have a piece of software that we think will help you take the information that we share on a daily basis and make it actionable. We want every single person to pursue and achieve financial security and financial freedom. In order to do that, you gotta act. And SoFi allows you to do it. So you can go to SoFi.com/Pomp today. You can open up an account. And when you open up an account, you can invest in all sorts of different types of assets. ETFs, individual stocks, IPOs, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. They even have an automated investing function. If you want to invest, SoFi can help you. They've got a couple of different offers that you can benefit from. The first, open an invest account and they'll give you up to $1,000 for free. Kind of a no-brainer. Second is if you go on and you buy one of the cryptocurrencies that they offer, they'll go ahead and they'll give you $10 of Bitcoin for free. And third, some of you are saying, I already have a brokerage account. I already have an account somewhere else. Right now, you can get up to $5,000 for transferring your account. That's right. SoFi doesn't care where your current account is, but if you transfer it from that place to SoFi, they'll pay you up to $5,000 for doing it. Why wouldn't you do it? It's up to $5,000 for free. Head on over to SoFi.com/Pomp today to get started. And come back tomorrow and watch more of the Best Business Show. Together, we're going to build the biggest show in the world.